Thursday afternoon. It is time for the Bearcat Den. Welcome into the Bearcat Den. And you know, when you hear Back in Black on a Thursday afternoon, it is time for the Bearcat Den. Welcome into the Bearcat Den. I'm Tommy Warhurst alongside Coleman head coach Trent Walker. Coach, nothing like Back in Black on Thursday afternoon.
Get me cranked up for a homecoming game.
Welcome into the Bearcat Den, folks. No video this week. My apologies. I've been running crazy showing real estate all day long. Did not have a chance to get the video link hooked up, but we're here on audio, and we are going to be able to rip this audio and get it back on Facebook and all the social media links for you later on today. Homecoming week, Coach. I know homecomings are things that coaches just cringe over on one hand because there's so many different distractions. Talk about practice this week being homecoming week.
Yeah, I think we've had, a good practice week. You can always tell. I tell many older coach now, I tell our assistants what you should expect is a little bit more lowered energy, not from because they're not into it. Like what I've seen this week is our guys have practiced well, but just they don't have that extra energy because all day they're in their costumes or they're couple they come to school with a full, hopefully they get rest and a full bottle of water, and on a homecoming week they're pouring out all day. They're taking pictures, they're doing all the fun stuff at homecoming during the school day. So when we get them, they've had some energy expended more than normal. But in terms of the focus of the execution of it, I think we've had a good week.
Yeah.
They continue to. Sometimes we don't give young people enough credit for being resilient. We think, they're really young people bounce back. Yeah. They're actually the ones that kind of bounce back faster than we do. And so to be around them and their energy, and we've been sure to play some extra music at practice this week. We want to make sure that our building and our practice environment still has good vibes, and that's a credit to our coaches and the young people. But we're enjoying working together. We feel like what we're doing is significant, no matter what the record is. Poisoning ourselves for every opportunity when the night comes that we break through. So I'm excited to go back to work tomorrow night.
Muscle Shoals comes to town tomorrow night for homecoming. We'll dig in to the Trojans a little bit later on in the Bearcat Den. But first, Coach, let's go back to last week. Another huge game, a great crowd at Oliver Woodard Stadium, good energy inside the stadium. We had Jasper. It used to be Walker. I had Jasper in town for a region game. And for a spectator, once again, who didn't have a dog in the race, what a great football game to get to watch.
Yeah, we gave My 68 a great ball game to broadcast. If you're a neutral fan of football, you've enjoyed the last 3 weeks of closely contested ball games. I thought from the pep rally, we had the Miss Pollen and the band ran an unbelievable pep rally. There's some videos that got shared about that. Just the blackout with the black lights and all the neon stuff was just awesome. To having the Friday Night Rivals 33-40 show, almost like a college game day set that featured our football team and the cheerleaders to the game. I mean, it was just a really neat special day for Coleman High School and Coleman football specifically. And then the game matched it. It was a game between two rivals, but I thought both sides played such a clean, classy, passion-filled game. It just came down to a play here or there again, and that's hard for us as coaches and players. Sometimes the games that are so close, you overanalyze one play, one call, one situational decision, as opposed to games that have bigger score margins, and so you can really beat yourself up over the weekend thinking about those type of things. And those thoughts are right. Our job is to continue to figure things out and find ways to go win that game. But what we showed on Monday, in our Tell the Truth Monday, was that every side of the ball had a chance to go win it, and we just didn't.
Yeah.
And we don't have exactly those answers. I don't want to blame youth. I don't want to blame inexperience. I don't want to blame new systems. None of it's to blame. It's just we got to go do it. We continue to believe in each other, coaches and players, and the whole program to go win that. Someone at that moment go get a stop, go score on 4th and 4 as opposed to go make the field goal. Like we all took our turn. And I think that's what's been important is, we win these things and lose these things together. Right now, unfortunately, we've come off on the short end, but the togetherness is still there. That hasn't been broken, and that's what I'm most excited about and proud of for our football team and coaching staff.
3 games, our last 3 games in a row, actually, 3 games, we've lost by a total of 5 points.
Total.
We've been there. You know, we talk about week after week, the last 3 weeks, for spectators that love football, those have been 3 great ball games. Yes, we want to win, but man, 3 games and 5 points.
It is, and so just, again, the players to be down in games to come back. I told them we've come back more this season in 4 games than I have in some seasons at all, because sometimes you get down in certain seasons, you don't come back. I mean, we have come back, and the resiliency. And I want to brag on our community. I want to brag on our parents. I want to brag on our administrators. I want to brag on everybody that's watching us. The outpour of support that I feel in the hallways, that I feel, you know, through text messages and just emails and things. Just they see what the body of work that we've put together, and they're proud to wear black and gold. And that, please don't underestimate how much that has meant to us. You know, I believe in this process we're going through. I see the results of our process every day. I know where this ship's headed. A wise man I know said you can't turn a ship fast.
I don't know how wise he was, but yeah.
But that's a great analogy. You know, no matter how hard we turn on this rudder, the boat takes time to continue to move around. But it doesn't mean we're not all trying. And so the community seeing that and being intentional with their support, I'm telling you, has refilled our cups as a program, and coaches and players. And we had 3 former players at practice today. I mean, the vibes are still, you would never know our record, and that's so important.
Yeah. The first half was kind of back and forth. Talk a little bit about the first half of last week's game.
Yeah, so just again, you know, we go and the back and forth, you know, we go up and score a touchdown. We complete a pass. You know, first off, we go back all the way. We had the ball in the first series. We've had a lot of success on first series this season so far. And here we go again, and we've got that ball. We've got that completed in our heavy package, and the ball squirts out. You know, and nobody's more upset about it than Jack Cabry, and they end up with the ball, but the defense gets a stop. So you kind of call that, you know, it's a wash. I mean, it's still 0-0. Then we get the ball, and Weston Kill catches a pass. Colt Culver doesn't find his downfield receiver. Nobody can open. He does a great job finding his check down, and Weston Kill did the rest for 50 yards to put in the end zone. And just, again, the shot in the arm, the energy in the stadium at that point. And then slowly Jasper starts to get comfortable in their scheme against our defense, and they get up. I believe they missed an extra. They had the bad snap, and so it ended up being 9-7 Jasper's way. And then we mount a drive to score. And so we ended up at halftime, 16-14. I was really hoping, you know, I took some timeouts when Jasper was on on offense to get us the ball back, and we had the ball again to try to do a 2-minute drive. Yeah. And you know, we run the ball for about 15-yard gain. We have a misalignment, and so we talk about that's a 5-yard penalty. But when we ran the ball for 15 yards, it's really a 20-yard penalty. And so just the learning from that. I was a freshman that got misaligned, and he's going to be a tremendous player for us. And just the learnings that, you know, we're learning on the job. Yeah. That's how we kind of talk about it. And so we end up having to punt, and then we end up going to half, 16-14 down. And then again, the second half, we can talk about that. But it was just at halftime, I felt really good about our guys. I really felt like the look in their eye. They knew they were in it, and they had taken some of Jasper's good shots. I mean, number 7, number 3 had made plays and made scores, but they felt very confident where they were at halftime.
Yeah, they had a really good 1-2 punch there at running back, and they did break away for some big runs, but we held them in check for most of the part of the night. And I think looking at the first half last week, we had been there. We had been in those battles. We've been in the tight games. Jasper had kind of had it easy coming in, and I think that our resilience and our effort and our fire and our experience being in those big games really showed up in the first half.
I do too. I'll give credit to them. I thought they had not been in one, but you know, I've seen different eras of Jasper football and Walker football, and I thought, you know, this is going to be the moment where they kind of internally combust, and they never did either. You know, they've got some strong leadership in their locker room too. So, you know, like I said, what a great high school football game, and the finish, you know, towards the second half. Just when we punched that ball in at the, you know, I think 4 minutes ago in the fourth quarter, I thought this is our moment. Yeah. You know, this is it. We worked hard. We had penalties inside the drive and had to overcome those. They had a penalty that got, you know, as a first down, unearned. And so when we punched that in, I thought this is it. You know, this is finally the breakthrough our guys have worked so hard for. And then, you know, you take no kick for granted, you know, ever in high school football. Again, nobody feels worse than Brooks West. But, you know, it takes every snap and every game. We played 164 snaps, and it takes all 164 to do the job you got to do against a really tough region opponent. who, on paper is probably a few scores better than you. So to be in that moment, it takes every snap and every play.
Yeah. For those who weren't at the game or weren't able to look at the write-up on the post game afterwards and so forth, like Coach said, we scored with about 4.5 minutes or so left to go in the game. Jasper then got the ball back and just drove down the field and scored on us. Our defense gave them everything that they had. I feel like it was just one of those moments where they were determined to get there, and we couldn't do much to keep them out of the end zone.
Yeah, they were. They had their best players make plays on that final drive. Both 7 and 3 had long extended runs. They broke tackles on it. It wasn't just missed assignments. They won their one-on-one, as we say it. They broke the tackles to extend the plays, and then again they scored with 30 seconds. I mean, we strung that out about as long as we could, and they had a ball snapped on second down, and there's 2 snaps on that drive that ball bounces a different way. One time the ball hits the ground and bounces right up into Smothers' hands, and he ends up trying to catch it. He ends up putting it on his head. As a coach on the sideline in that moment, I mean, everything was moving so slow.
Yeah.
But it perfectly went back into his hands, and then also they had a bad snap that pushed him to 3rd and 12, and I thought this is where it's going to end. Mm-hmm. And we had a hands to the face mask penalty. It was there. It was the right call, a tough call in that situation. Games don't come down to one play or one call. And it was also, like I said, it was there. We did it. And so that was just a gut punch there. But again, we still have a chance to stop them. We still have them. And we, even on the last touchdown run, there's 2 guys that have a chance to make a tackle. And it's in 7. Lincoln Smothers just makes guys miss. That's what he does. He works hard in his off season too. To be a great player, and so competitive greatness is what we're talking about. How do we find ways to have competitive greatness and match those moments? And those are coming. I know they are. And I'd say that we're having to learn. Yeah. But sometimes, again, we talk about, you said 5 points. Over 3 games, I could probably pick out, I said 5 to 7 plays. It really could come down probably to 3 or 4. I said, guys, how are you going to walk out of here? Are you going to walk out of here differently because 3 or 4 plays of high school football went differently than you want them to? Like, our identity can't be in that. Yeah. If your identity, what the value you consider yourself to have in life comes from 3 or 4 football plays, it's going to be a long life, buddy. You're going to be riding waves of joy and sadness all your whole life. And so believe in what we've done, believe in what we've accomplished together, and hold on to those things, because those are the things that are lasting. And this brotherhood and this hurt that you're feeling, that's real life emotions. But you've done it together, and you've done it the right way. And just, again, proud. I tell them all the time, I'm proud to be the head coach here. I'm proud. I love you guys. I'm proud to be your head coach. By the way you play the game, not the final score. I love you because how you approach practice, how you approach each other, saying thank you when we feed you. Like today, we're feeding them pasta. So many players still saying, we've been doing this for 5 weeks now. We feed them every Thursday, and it could get old, but no, I got a bunch of teenage boys that still say thank you, coach, thank you, coach. And so when they're doing those things, that brings more value to that final scoreboard. Although as competitors, we want that scoreboard to go our way. It will. Yeah. There's no doubt in my mind it's going to start flipping our way.
Well, you can see just from my perspective, either in the press box doing PA or the radio game, a couple of games we've done there, the attitude is different, the enthusiasm, the drive, the heart. You can tell these guys are playing with heart because we have been. We've kind of been outmanned in a few games. Yes. We've been right there with them, and a lot of that is heart, but a lot of that too goes back to you and your staff. I'm a big believer that attitude reflects leadership, and I've told you before, and we've got the right leaders in place now. The team is buying in and catching on to that.
Yeah, I think when I say the community's reached out, that's what they're saying, is that they're seeing our guys play from a different place. Like you said, a very personal, together place, and so that brotherhood that was so important to me, it's been so important along the line to so many Coleman players. That's definitely pouring itself out, manifest, and that's what I think we've played above our ability in some games because of our togetherness. I think we have a well-prepared team. I think our coaches have worked very diligently on both sides of the ball and special teams to prepare our guys for these games. And when you add preparedness with that genuine pull for each other, you can do some pretty special things on Friday nights in high school football.
Every Tuesday, we get a chance to do some coaches clips. We break down some plays from games. We put that on all over social media, but we're kind of limited on what you can talk about in breaking down a play. So real quick today, before we go to break, I wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of expand more on the defense and the fact that each week as coaches, you can scout and put in different schemes to to do things against an offense to try to really shut them down and get them out of their game. And this past week, we highlighted defense, and defense was able to implement the things that the coaching staff put in, and it worked pretty well most of the time.
Yeah, I hope our fans are enjoying that content. That's something that, we wanted to be able to give access to kind of what goes on beyond just the score. There's a lot of things that are going on, that some high-level coaching going on. That's what we try to display, is that our guys are buying into the coaching. And so that scheme there, when you see a defensive unit work together, it's one of the most, I think, satisfying things you can see. When everybody knows each other's jobs and they're working together. The defensive unit continuity is such an awesome thing to watch. And so we had some wrinkles in, again, that put our players in position to make plays. Sometimes, talk about good pitching and hitting, like who has the advantage. Well, sometimes good offense can have the advantage over good defense. So when you make some intentional decisions to put our guys in the best positions possible, that's fun to watch, and that's what we want to share with our fan base.
Yep. That is usually every Tuesday. We get that on the different social media links. It's called Coaches Clips. You can go back and search the Coleman High School Football Facebook page. You can search my Voice of Coleman Football and Basketball Facebook page, or check that out too on my personal Instagram page, the Coleman Football Instagram page. If you've missed any Coaches Clips, like I said, you can go back and watch those anytime right there on social media. When we come back, we'll take a look at Muscle Shoals and talk a little bit more about homecoming coming up tomorrow night here as we are in the Bearcat Den with Coach Trent Walker.
Cheerleaders and band members who bring energy and pride to our community every single day. Coleman Electric Cooperative and Sprout Fiber Internet, powering the good life.
Looking for a truly one-of-a-kind dining experience? You can discover the National, Coleman's local gym, where fresh Gulf seafood, locally sourced produce, and handcrafted cocktails come together to create a taste of excellence. From farm-to-table meals to cocktails made with care, every bite is a celebration of our community's flavors and craftsmanship. Savor the best of Coleman, only at the National, where local, fresh, and unforgettable meet. You can come for the food. Stay for the experience. The National, open Wednesday through Sunday with brunch on Saturday and Sundays. The National, just fancy enough. First Avenue downtown, next to Dutchess.
In 1952, 7 men at an aluminum plant banded together and started Lister Hill Credit Union with only $5 each. Today, more than 92,000 have joined us, continuing the legacy of supporting themselves and the community through Lister Hill. It's all about we and what we can do together.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Live 95.5.
Welcome back into the Bearcat Den. I'm Tommy Warhurst alongside Coleman head coach Trent Walker, looking back at last week's game against Jasper, and then we'll look ahead to tomorrow night's homecoming game against the Muscle Shoals Trojans. Coach, real quick, too, going back to last week, a lot of folks may have asked, the game, Jasper scores there at the end of the game. They're going to go kick an extra point, and we let them line up, and you take a timeout. Some folks think you're freezing the kicker, but in essence, there was more coaching logic going into it than just trying to freeze a kicker.
Yeah, I think sometimes, it's easy to sit there and assume why we think what we think. There's a lot of things that go through, my head. I've been coaching 17 years, been studying the game, as a head coach, but even before I became a head coach. And so you're processing a lot of things, and you're making instinctive calls, and just it felt like in that moment, as low as it was in the clock, under 20, there's like 25 seconds left in the game. Sometimes 2 timeouts is worse than 1 timeout or 3 timeouts. With 3, you may hold them all and say, I've got 3 timeouts to do something. With 2, it's kind of this, I call it a decision point. 1, you take it because you only got 1 left anyway. And so we just felt like, it felt like our offense had been, where we are in our offensive progression in terms of being a run-heavy team, knowing that Jasper was going to play an extreme prevent defense.
Yeah.
And to be honest, where we are with our kicking game. I mean, everybody, it's no secret right now that we're trying to find consistency in our kicking game. I felt like this was the game. I felt like the extra point was the game, and so I wanted to put our guys in a defensive formation and personnel that we've practiced. I wanted to put the best opportunity to stop the point after touchdown. Because if we block that, we're drawn even at 29. And so I thought that was the right call there. I got different coaches that I trust that input, and we, my thing is we always talk about our why. So many factors go into these decisions. As long as we know our why we're making these decisions, then that's all that we can stand on. And so we evaluate a lot of things, and 40 seconds is a play clock. There's things, 18 different points, flying through your head in those 30 seconds to make decisions, and it just the instincts of being on the field too. I think it's different. That's why coordinators are sometimes in a box offensively. There was one time we ran a ball, an outside zone play that they stopped, and I told Coach Hack, run it again, run it fast, run it again, run it fast, because what I see on the field level is they're dragging. Their linemen are on their hips. The linebacker, he made the tackle, but he barely made the tackle. When you're up top in the box, sometimes you're removed from the emotions of the game and the smaller things. So I feel like it's my job, especially here where I'm blessed not to have to call plays like I did at my previous school. I have great coordinators on all three phases. I'm able to give those inputs. And so we ran the same exact play. They just stopped for a 1-yard loss, and it scored.
Yeah.
And the reason was only because I felt like we had them on their heels. They were tired. They had some guys playing both ways at the line. And so things like that, you're just making these instinct decisions, and that was kind of another one. We just felt like the extra point became the game. And so hate to be in that spot to do that, but that was what we decided. And again, as long as we know our why, we're going to stand behind those things.
Yeah. It never gets any easier week after week in 6A football. This is big boy football.
It's amazing how many situational football have already showed up. We had that thing I talked about last week. We have a situational script we go through, and we're checking things off to make sure our guys have been in spots. It's amazing how many we've already checked off that list in 4 weeks on live Friday Night Football.
Muscle Shoals comes to town tomorrow night for homecoming, and they're a team who's always going to be fast. They're going to be slippery with their running backs and their quarterbacks, and they come in averaging 43 points a game. They're only giving up 4.75. They've given up 7.6 points and didn't give up any points last week to Decatur. We're going to have our hands full against the Trojans. Coach, talk a little bit about Coach Basden's game.
What he's done there, it's no secret. We have what we call Thursday Tell the Tape, and it's a chance for me to really talk about the game. All week we talk about, are we playing to our standard? We're aware of who we're playing, but we talk about focusing on Coleman. And on Thursday is kind of the first time I want to talk about, I think it's important these guys know the context of the game. And I think sometimes those conversations are hard but important. So I stood in front of our team today and said, look, from 1986 to 2005, we were 7-2 against Muscle Shoals. Something happened from 2005 to 2011 that changed in their system, their program. That area became more transient. There's things that have happened since 2011. We're 1-11 against Muscle Shoals. It's kind of hard. I want them to know the truth of it. Does that make sense? Like we're wanting to play a great game, but I want them to understand again the reality of where we are, but because of where we want to go. And so I think sometimes you can define success, certain ways, and not have to be always the classic ways. And the last time we beat them, the only time we beat them in a stretch was 2020 when I was here as assistant coach. We played a great game here in Oliver Woodard and beat them, and so we went on to have a really good season that year. So we know that when we beat Muscle Shoals, we're headed to a good season.
Yeah.
And I talked to Coach Basin today, and he was nothing but complimentary of our guys and the way we're playing the game, and just in what he sees on the film. Has him worried, but I also know who he's bringing into our stadium. An Alabama commit. 6'6" receiver, all these talented players. We're hoping the score last week of Decatur and Muscle Shoals jumped out to me 66-0. At some point there, you have to feel like maybe Decatur stopped playing hard because they quit believing. I challenged our guys like, how are we going to play? No regrets. Let's have no regrets when we step off the field. Fearless has been our word of the week. Let's play fearless. And if we play those are the markers I see. A fearless, a team that played with no regrets walking off the field. I'm going to be proud no matter what's on that scoreboard. Because we understand the reality of things. But our job is to play our best game on this night, and it's their job to have to play their best too to match it.
Yeah.
So when the moment comes and they don't, we've talked about the Vanderbilt Alabama game last year. You don't know when that moment's going to happen, so you have to be ready to capitalize on a night where maybe Muscle Shoals isn't clicking like they have the ability to click. Your team has to be ready, and so that's been our motivation this week.
Again, as an Auburn guy, it's hard to quote Coach Saban, but he is one of the best football coaches to ever coach the game. And his thing was control what we do what we do, and don't worry about them. Exactly. And things take care of themselves.
Yeah, I feel like that process oriented, just from my engineering background as a student, like the process appeals to me a lot, and we talk a lot about that. We're not going to stop eating on Thursdays. We're not going to stop having our, Blue Card Tuesday. If we were 4-0 or 0-4, these processes work. We believe in them. Sometimes we overcomplicate the path to success, right? It's not hard. It's not complex, but it is hard, right? It's simple, but it's hard to go do day in, day out. And so that's what the challenge is. These guys, young men, they're used to things on their phone. They can just swipe and move. Their attention span is so short. So to stay focused to a process for not only 10 weeks of a season, but 4 weeks of preseason and 8 weeks of summer, it's a long, long process to believe in it. But again, if you come in our building, you're going to see a lot of joy, and that comes from, again, we do things within the process to make sure they see value as a person. Yeah. And that we don't, we understand they're still teenage boys. I want them to enjoy homecoming week. I told them, go enjoy the bonfire, enjoy the, the powder puff tonight, enjoy those memories, because as you know, they're fleeting. Yeah. They're going to sure. They want to work and go to their kids' ball games and go home. And so enjoy these times in your life. It's a special time. And that's one thing I always want to bring to them. I'm not the football coach. Don't enjoy it. No, please go enjoy this time. But we have a responsibility to our community on Friday night as well. Right.
We're 0-4, but at the same time, a few plays here or there, our record could be a whole lot different. We're going to have some good things happen for us tomorrow night. Muscle Shoals are going to have some bad luck tomorrow night. Talk about what's going to happen for us to pull out a big win tomorrow night.
Let's go force those bad things. Let's not be bad things because Muscle Shoals makes mistakes. Let's go force the issue. Put them on their heels and see how they respond to that pressure that we put on them. That's, I just want to, again, thank our fans. The drop-off could have been there from a, Bob Jones season opener to come to support an 0-3 team in the stadium, but the fans were incredible. The attendance we had, Alabama was playing a early home game against Wisconsin, a team people don't usually get to see. So, in Coleman, those things matter. And so to have the crowd we had, to create the environment, it was incredible. I took the job that maybe the support on Friday nights had waned in terms of attendance. It is there. And just know that it's appreciated. It's not just something we're saying. Like, we were so thankful to have the folks, have our back, and this thing's going to start rolling, and you're going to be so glad you're sitting in those seats, and just thank you for being there already.
We do expect a great crowd again tomorrow night. In fact, the class is from 87 all the way up to your class of 93, if I'm not mistaken. Are having a reunion.
I'm class 2005. But,
okay, my apologies. Yes. I'm trying to make him older than he is.
But some days I feel like that. But
even speaking of that, though, it's never been about you. Right. It's always about the kids. But I know you're going to have a lot of classmates that you saw at your reunion earlier in the summer that are going to be here tomorrow night and just talk about. Again, I know it's never about you, and you don't like to have the spotlight on yourself, but a lot of the good things that are happening here because of you.
I had my class had that reunion this summer. It was really neat to have that 20-year, kind of crazy to have a 20-year reunion, but then that group got together and went to eat at Downtown Grill and kind of had used the opportunity of the game to kind of fellowship as a class again. Yeah. And that was neat to hear about that. So no, it's I want to keep making homecoming special. I want to do some intentional things as we keep growing this to make it really we had 3 players there today. I want to have 30 players practice on Thursday of homecoming, just so our guys can understand what a special place this is and a program they play for. That a lot of people still care, even if they, but I want them to know, please come back, come see your field, come see your place. Yep.
Homecoming tomorrow night, kickoff set for 7 o'clock as we welcome in the Muscle Shoals Trojans. We need a big crowd tomorrow night to cheer on our Bearcats and see who's going to be homecoming queen this year, too. Coach, as always, thank you for your time, for stepping in the Bearcat Den, sir.
Hey, tonight, don't forget those Powder Puff girls, they get after it. So if you got a chance to come by tonight, see the bonfire, and be a part of the pageantry, please do it.
Yep. For Coach Trent Walker, I'm Tommy Wilhurst saying so long, and thanks for listening to the Bearcat Den here on Coleman's Live 95. Here's Guns N' Roses.